Hello. Welcome to the next section of the one and only Ruby. This chapter is called The Elephant Orphanage. Although I didn't know it then, the place where Jabori cared for me was called an elephant orphanage. Jabori was one of many caretakers, all working together like bees in a hive. The orphanage was a special place for baby elephants who'd been found lost and alone. The way it worked was pretty simple. With pretend milk and pretend parents and a pretend life, they were trying to teach us how to survive. But the love was never pretend, never. Others. Mornings came really early at the orphanage, before the stars had run away. It was the stirring babies that woke me with their shuffling and tiny trumpets. Each one was in a wooden enclosure like mine, and each one had a human companion all day and all night. In my space, there was an extra roommate. His name was Odongo, and he was a young African hedgehog. He was round and spiky with bright beady eyes and tiny feet. Odongo had been using my place as his home long before I'd gotten there, but he was happy enough to share the space with Jabori and me. He was a quiet roommate, but he liked to sit on my back the way Jichinga used to. And when I had bad dreams at night about Mama, he would cuddle up next to Jabori and me. Aside from Odongo, I haven't yet met any of my other neighbors. As I calmed a bit, I grew more curious about the other elephants. Each day I heard a small group of babies head out into the open with their caretakers. Where did they go? If I went too, would I find my family? The babies came back tired, smelling of dirt and sweet leaves. They seemed content, even happy. I wanted to know more. Welcome. Soon enough, I had some answers when I was allowed to join the other babies on their daily adventures. The first time Jabori led me out of my cage to the common area, the babies welcomed me with nuzzles and trumpets and nudges, as if we'd known each other forever. There were 17 elephants at the orphanage while I was there. I was in an area called the nursery, along with 5 other babies. We were separated from the older calves. I never learned how the other babies had ended up at the orphanage. I wasn't there long enough to ask, and nobody talked about their pasts. Sometimes, though, at night, I'd hear one of the babies cry out, and I'd know I wasn't the only one having bad dreams. Milk and mud. Mornings at the orphanage were busy. Before leaving, we all chowed down on our breakfast milk. The huge bottles arrived in a wheelbarrow, and sometimes one of us would try to sneak an early drink. Once we were fed, it was time to begin our walk. Because of the drought, the only mud puddle we could visit was shallow and just big enough for 3 babies at a time. But that didn't stop us from trying to squeeze the whole group in. Wallowing in mud was my favorite thing to do. Gooey and cool and messy, it was the best. We splashed and tumbled while our caretakers watched to be sure we didn't get carried away, which of course we did. There is nothing better in the whole wide world than being totally covered in mud. Stampede. After some mud fun, we turned to foraging. Even though we were still just drinking milk, it was good practice for when we got older. It was hard work looking for leaves and grasses and grabbing them with our trunks. It seemed so easy when the grown ups did it, but they had tusks, and they'd had lots of practice. One morning, I stuck my trunk into a scrubby bush, hoping to discover a tender leaf or two, when a strange white winged creature hit me in the forehead. It didn't hurt. I didn't actually feel anything, to tell the truth, but it scared me with its frantic fluttering. I reared back and tripped on my own feet, landing on another baby who rolled into 2 others. They panicked and dashed off as fast as their little legs could manage. And suddenly we were all running, baby elephants and caretakers alike. It was only when Jabori produced a deafening whistle that we stopped short. Faneka, the oldest baby, looked at me and said, You realize that was just a moth, right? A moth, I repeated, but it was so big. The other babies began to giggle. You're an elephant, Dooney, Vaneka reminded me. You're about a zillion times bigger than a moth. Well, it bonked me on the head. Hard, I cried, and I'm telling you, it was gigantic. But even I could hear how ridiculous I sounded. For a few days, the other babies called me Monster Moth, but they got over it eventually. That was the first time I learned how useful it is to be able to laugh at yourself. Come back tomorrow for the next chapters. Bye.